Hi, welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. I'm Travis.
Max.
I'm Brian.
And we're joined today with a very special guest, the man behind Gear Talk, Lance Seymour.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. I love this podcast, actually.
Yeah, and we love yours too. It's just called Gear Talk Podcast.
Yeah, so check it.
Right.
Check it out. Yeah,
absolutely check it out.
And you're on iTunes and all the big outlets, right?
Yeah, we're on Hipcast and iTunes, and I'm thinking about doing the whole thing you guys do on YouTube as well.
Man, it seems to have taken off.
Yeah, it's fun.
I would do it.
It makes for an easy day's worth of work. Hey, let's talk about gear for a couple hours.
It's unbelievable how I didn't expect it to take off so quick. I mean, I only have a few episodes up, and I went and checked the downloads of it, and it was like 100,000 downloads. And I would have been happy with like 400 at this point.
Yeah.
I was like, oh crap! I had to send it to friends, and so yeah, there's definitely a need for these type of shows on the interwebs.
Yeah, completely. And Brian said we need to do a podcast, and I was just like, whatever. Okay, cool.
Right.
And he was like, podcasts are going to be big, trust me. I'm like, whatever. It's like, I'll do it. I'm not going to fight it. It sounds fun, and sure enough, same thing. We go on our stats, and it's hundreds of thousands of people are listening to these things. So
Right.
It's all the rage.
Right, but we do get the people like, I want you to talk about gear the entire time. And I'm like, that you want to listen to Gear Talk or something like that. We're probably going to stay on topic about 10% of the time.
No, I don't stay on topic at all. I mean, my last guest, which is not up yet, is Jamie from Third Power, and we just talked about how he's a vegan for like a half hour. And,
I couldn't do it. There's no way I could be a vegan.
Vegan or communist.
I could be a vegan like after I get done eating my hamburger. I could.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't.
And you can't reset it.
That just means like you could say you could be an anorexic after you get done eating your hamburger.
That's true. That's a good point. I'm gonna use that.
So
I'm anorexic for 3 more hours, maybe.
Eating disorders are funny, and that's the first offensive comment of the day. So
That's right, because we forgive you.
yeah, but yeah, right. So tell me, like, Gear Talk, how did that start, man? Because like you said, it's taken off.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. I kind of told this story a couple times, but really the thing was, I was playing a gig. Pretty much a little background on me is I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been a full-time guitar player for about 10 years in Atlanta. And I had come back from a gig in Key West or something like that. And I had this idea of, like create some sort of group on Facebook. I'd been added to these groups
Right.
for like just different like things like, car collecting groups or whatever. I was trying to sell some stuff on Facebook, and none of my friends had messaged me or anything. And I was like, dude, all my friends are professional musicians. Like 90% of my guy friends are guitar players. So part of it was create a group, and then they all have to see my stupid ad to sell, Wampler pedals or whatever I was getting rid of at the time.
Yeah, you don't want to keep those anyway.
Yeah, they suck.
No, I actually
enjoy
didn't have, and I probably didn't have too many cool pedals back then. Then, the other side of it was I would go to the forum, say the Gear Page. You've heard of the Gear Page, perhaps?
Of course.
I mean, it's such a unknown forum in the gear industry.
It's starting to be.
Well,
It's spreading out.
Well, okay, so that kind of plays into it. It was like I would go there and I would type in, say, Timmy pedal or something, and 550 million threads would pop up of people saying, and you'd have just all kinds of opinions, and they were disputing and arguing, and you're talking to a guy named Fender Guy 222 or something like that, and you have no idea if this guy knows what the hell he's talking about at all. So I created this little group on Facebook. I didn't put any thought into the name. It was 3 a.m. after I got in from Florida, and I was just like, I kind of got excited about this idea. So I type in these words Gear Talk on create a group, on Facebook, and just added like 50 of my professional guitar player friends, the guys who I knew I could trust. And like, if they say, hey, this amp is rad, or this pedal rocks, or this sucks, right, I could trust them. I couldn't trust the guys on the mega forums, like I'm not trying to diss the mega forums, because I still use them sometimes, but so that's kind of how that happened. And to make a long story a little bit longer, it snowballed very, very quick. I guess there wasn't really anything like that on Facebook at the time. Right. So, it kind of, people just started adding their friends, and it was really cool and organic, especially when it was small in the first few months, like everything is. Mm-hmm. Since then, it's kind of taken over my life in the last 3 years, as in, we had a Gear Talk Expo in 2012 and 2013, which is like, a micro trade show for guitar companies here in Atlanta. And, then the Instagram thing happened.
That's huge.
It was just logical to start an Instagram. I don't know. That really has kind of got connected me with so many companies as well, more than even Facebook did. I'm really fortunate to have, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't just, I wouldn't be talking to you guys if it wasn't for, just creating a little Facebook group 3 years ago.
That's awesome, man. And your Instagram's just at Gear Talk, or your Twitter's at Gear Talk, and your Instagram's just Gear.
No, my Twitter is not. That was already taken. So how it kind of works is I have, it's a little bit of like self-promotion in a way. Gear Talk, when somebody tags Gear Talk on Instagram, and then it goes to Twitter, it just tags my name at Lance Seymour.
Okay.
So my personal Instagram or Twitter gets tagged a million times, but it's cool. It helps me gain some followers there. I felt like, and I was like, well, I could do a Gear Talk, like gear_talk or whatever, and I think I do have that, but I felt Instagram was more, lended itself more to gearheads. People want to look at cool stuff.
Exactly, the visual aspect.
Yeah, and I could, on Twitter you can, you can post little tweets and links and stuff like that, but I didn't feel like that was the right, outlet, avenue for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I dig it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just got to say to anybody listening, if you're not following Gear Talk on Instagram, you're way behind the times, because he's got like 60,000 followers. I'm not. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah. You know what you should do at this point, Lance? You should just start charging people.
Wow, why didn't I think
to be a member of the club? $3 a month.
Yeah, dues.
Why didn't I think of that? That's I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to be so loaded.
My consulting fee is only $10,000 for that.
Yeah. Well, if I'm making $120,000, or whatever every day,
right,
it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, take your $10,000, Brian.
Something I do want to talk about, and we've kind of segued into it, is how social media is really affecting everything to do with gear, especially the smaller boutique companies.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'll kind of go even more in depth to that. And maybe it's just me that's getting this impression, but I almost get the impression that there's a recent resurgence in boutique amplifiers. And because it seemed like that was kind of like a hard sell maybe even 6 months ago, and now with the presence of like Milkman amps and Jackson Ampworks, it's like,
and Jackson's killing it, man.
Yeah, and you know why? I think social media. You know what I mean?
Brian, Brian O'Million, I think is his name, who runs the Jackson Ampworks Instagram. Dude, I told the guy at NAMM, I was like, man, keep on doing what you are doing, because You're taking these beautiful photos. I myself, as I don't create a product, so I end up reposting a lot from companies, and I can only justify reposting really beautiful, artful shots.
Right.
And so I've posted a lot of stuff from Jackson Ampworks because they'll take their amps outside in the desert in Texas and put a cool looking Strat or Telecaster on there, and they're absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and they're just totally killing it. And I mean, obviously, I'm not within the company. I don't know anything about how many amps they sell, but you would have to think that it's raises their profits and their sales.
I'm sure it has.
You would have to think that, right?
I'm sure. I mean, they're basically creating fans.
Yeah.
And with any business, especially any niche business like this, if you have a community of dedicated followers, then that's basically your customer base.
So basically, you're the leader of a gear cult.
Boom.
Yeah.
Hashtag gear cult.
Well, here's one thing I think about a lot is pardon me. One thing I think about a lot is, it's almost like brand loyalty sometimes, like and it's marketing. I was talking with, by the way, I was talking with Jack Vaughn last night, Brian, and he told me to say hi from JHV3.
Oh, cool.
The last thing he said was, "Hey, tell Brian I said hi." Anyhow, I think it's like brand loyalty at this point. It's like there's so many companies, like especially pedal companies, that make very, very similar pedals.
Right.
It's marketing. It's which company do I want to buy my Tube Screamer from, or my clone?
You're right.
Because a lot of these pedals, man, they do the same thing. A lot of amps are very similar. So now it's like, it's marketing. It's who do I have a personal connection with, know, and I think that's where a company can really fly with social media. And
on the flip side of that, they can drown without it. There's a lot of companies that you see, like, I don't know, I'm not going to call anybody out, but,
name names,
but there's some bigger companies that seem to be doing everything right, 3-4 years ago, and now, I mean, they're never even spoken about.
Yeah.
And it's like Brian and I have talked about so many times. And the more we get into this, smaller companies are going to get bigger, and bigger companies are going to get smaller, to where it's all basically the same playing field.
Yeah, you see a lot, and I see it happen with musicians too. I mean, there's probably not going to be a lot of gigantic, no more Journeys and no more, not what Journeys bad,
right?
But I mean, great big mega bands of the 80s and 70s and 60s. But there's a lot of smaller bands that have just like you guys.
Yeah,
like your band, Travis. You guys have like a dedicated following of people that just love you.
I'd like to thank both of those people. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Wife.
Hey, Travis, what's your band called, by the way?
Well, I just started a new project, but the band that I toured with and did the whole record deal, all that crap, was it's just called WT Feaster Band, which is the worst name ever for marketing purposes. But
no, it's beautiful. I love it.
Well, you could.
It's a great name.
You could play off the WTF, which are seriously my initials.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly right. But I got a new project now called Henthorn Feaster, which is this guy Doug Henthorn. He, I don't know, he does a lot of work with John Hyatt. Joe Bonamassa flew him over to London to the Royal Albert Hall to do a couple shows with him.
Yeah, I heard you talking about him on the last show.
Yeah, he's great. So, I mean, I started that new project, so that's kind of what I'm pimping now.
You guys need a country picker.
That's totally what we know we don't.
I got a G-bender. That's what I'm saying.
Well, kind of what you guys were saying, too, is and I won't mention the name of this company, but I'm friends with a dealer in Georgia, and we were talking about different pedal brands he wanted to pick up, and there was one brand that I think make great pedals, but he was like, "Oh man, I went to their Instagram and it's absolutely horrible." And he actually said these words to me: "I don't think I want to carry them just because of their Instagram."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing now, is it's like you have to promote yourself, so dealers. I mean, it's a trickle-down effect.
Right.
If we promote ourselves, it's kind of like if you buy a franchise, if you buy a Subway or something, they advertise for you.
Well, so many years ago, years ago in internet days, I guess, so 10 years ago, whenever you had a retailer, retailers would basically sell your product for you.
Yes.
And it's not quite so much that way. I mean, you've got to sell,
Uh-huh.
and you've got to create that following of people that then go to the retailers and buy your product.
Yeah,
You know?
completely.
So it's a whole different landscape. So, but that's why you see like Fender selling direct. I just saw Sabian Cymbals is going to start selling direct now. Love Pedal only sells direct, I think, in the United States. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, and they're still doing really good just selling direct. You know,
And that comes back to the brand loyalty.
and it comes back to brand loyalty.
Yeah.
You know?
Brand
So I think
brand loyalty marketing. You know, it makes something look good. You know, or you know, the design, the look of a pedal will kill a pedal or win a pedal. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, there's okay, I have absolutely no need, number one, for another delay pedal. And I have absolutely no need for a delay pedal that only goes to 400 milliseconds. But,
What are you talking about?
some
What am I
guy-
doing on this show?
No, wait.
Come on.
But some guy just put out a delay pedal that looks like a flux capacitor.
I saw that.
And
yeah.
man, I want that damn thing. I already have 10 delay pedals. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But it looks cool.
But it's awesome. So yeah.
Who doesn't want that on their pedal board?
Exactly. You know,
I mean-
so you're right, man. The way a pedal looks, it can sync it too.
Well, you know, yeah, there was a company, you know, like Bondi Effects with, you
Yeah.
know, Jono Ashley. You know, man, he kind of, I think, really, he's one of the brands I think about that social media, especially Instagram, just helped him sell just a ton of pedals. I don't even know. You know, I don't know if I've even been to his website or if he has one, but I own both of his pedals, and you know, he took some beautiful photos of them that kind of came in at the right time, and you know, and he sold a ton of those sick as and Del Mar pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that sick as all over the place. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially on pro level boards. You know. And the cool thing is too is Instagram gives us a chance to see what artists are using too, because I notice there's a lot of artists now. There's like, well, there's my pedal board. I'll click it and put it online because
Right.
they need that content. You
Right.
know. So.
And they know that if they do that, then the gear companies are going to, you know,
repost and
Yep.
yeah. So it's just all.
Well, you know, it's like there's this whole kind of thing of new players that are because of social media. We're all kind of the guys who are real in the gear community, the guys who are really big gearheads and posting beautiful photos of their gear all the time. I know you guys know like Derek Williams.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, and Matthew Hoops. You know, I know we were talking, or you know, Mason Stoops as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
There's this guy on Instagram named FJ Lorente. He's in, I think, Costa Rica. Dude posts the most beautiful photos of gear all the time, and he gets
Nice.
reposted by all these other larger Instagram accounts, and it kind of makes them almost, you know, even whether they're a known artist or not, it kind of makes them known in the gear world.
Well, it's funny you mention that because there's a guy. Don't get me wrong; he's deserving. He's a great player. But do you know Philip Sace? Have you ever?
Yeah, how do I know that name?
He's a big time blues guy. He was a side guy for a long time, but basically, vintage gear guys love him because everything he plays is vintage. You know, the old fuzz
yeah.
faces, the old wahs, and obviously he's got a billion clones. You know, he plays vintage Fender amps, and you know. And I don't mean this with any disrespect, but you can tell that he's very studied in the Stevie Ray Vaughan school, if that makes any
Gotcha.
sense.
I understand.
So that right there attracts a lot of people. But, you know, it's not like he's selling a million records, but you go to YouTube and you type in, you know, Philip Sace and his gear or whatever, and there's one video that has tens of thousands of hits because it goes through his pedal board.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So he's becoming even more famous to guitar players because of the gear.
Right.
You know, and it's crazy. You know, people, and you'll see this now, you'll see people actually on their websites, artists, you know, of like people that, you know, aren't like very big, but they'll have gear, like a gear page on their website so you can see what gear they use. Like that's
That's the first thing I click.
yeah, right.
You know, I mean, that's what I want to see the most. I know their music by then, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, how's they, you know, and I kind of always make this sort of analogy, and I'll try to say it in a clean way. Okay, guitar pedal boards and rigs are like beautiful women. or just like women in general, not just beautiful. Okay, it can. I never get. I never get tired of looking at beautiful women. I never get tired of looking at women. I never get tired of looking at gear. Believe it or not, right. And it could be immaculate, a 10, or it can be a train wreck.
Right.
I mean, but I kind of just like looking at it. I mean, and they all have the same features, have the same parts, if you will, same elements, women and gear.
It's like the difference between a woman that's beautiful and then another one's just sexy. You know, you know what I mean?
The personality, the tone of the woman.
That's true. I mean, I guess I would rather see a picture of a very nice Dumble than like a little gorilla solid state amp.
But you're still going to look at the amp.
But it's still the gorilla.
You're still on. You're still going to put a little heart on it on the Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to double tap it.
We're still talking about gear.
See what I did there?
There we go. All right.
Okay, yeah, I cracked myself up on that. Funny. But, yeah, I mean, the Instagram thing, and I think you were even telling me, Brian, that Instagram has now surpassed Twitter in the number of followers, or users, I mean.
I think so. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I hear. And I mean, and Twitter's huge.
Twitter's been around for like 5 more years too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's had a chance to be that band that everybody liked in the beginning, but now that they got popular on it, you don't like them anymore.
I mean, at some point, Instagram will probably be like Facebook, where all the parents are getting on it. So everybody, you know what I mean? Like all the moms and grandmas will be on there posting pictures of whatever they post. And
the best thing about Instagram,
60-year-old woman selfies and stuff. But
the best thing about Instagram is you can go see what people are into without having to hear their opinions.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I mean, that's what I feel about Instagram is very drama free.
Right.
You know, having an account with 60,000 followers, you would think that there'd be a lot more drama on the photos, but there's really rarely, maybe a handful of times I remember there being any real drama on any of my photos. Now, Facebook, on the other hand. Which one of my favorite things to do is watch like Zvex and Cusack get into a fight on Facebook. We all love that.
Max and I always just refer to it as nerd fights.
Yeah, well,
hashtag nerd fight.
That's exactly what it is. And then Philippe will jump on there. It's just
he's
amazing.
Great.
He's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But okay, so I run obviously Gear Talk on Facebook. I run, believe it or not, I run like 60 Gear Talk groups on Facebook. As a matter of fact, I added up the members of all the groups, and there's like 86,000.
I'm just telling you, dues, charge dues. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, there's ways we've thought about doing certain things like that. We do the classifies, which I think has about 25,000 members in that, where people can buy, sell, and trade, and it's a cool thing. But okay, so there's also Gear Talk Praise and Worship.
Right, I've seen that.
As you guys know, in this market, praise and worship guitar players love gear. Like, yeah. I mean, and music lends itself to cool gear.
Yeah, especially delays and reverbs. I've noticed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, and the thing you have there is most of the time it's not professional musicians who have no money. Most of the time it's people that they may only play in church,
right?
And chances are they have the disposable income.
Well, and a lot of the times the churches that they play at do pay for the gear as well,
right? Yeah.
But what I was getting at was for drama, when I created that group, there just kind of needed to be a subgroup from Gear Talk, because they would get into these religious debates on the main Gear Talk, and I was like, I don't really want that here. It's not what it's about. So I've played for years at churches and things like that. So I was just like, well, how about we create a Gear Talk Praise and Worship? And I said to them the first day, I was like, I guarantee you, I was like, this group, you can talk, have your debates and everything, but I guarantee you this will be the most dramatic of all the gear forums, and it has proven to be,
That's like the equivalent to like Gear Talk forum would be like the bar, and then somebody's fighting. You say you want to take it outside.
In this instance, the whole entire bar goes outside.
Exactly. Yeah. In this instance, so basically, the praise and worship site is the outside. Don't duke it out over there.
But I think a lot of that just comes down to, I mean, what they say about don't talk about politics and religion. So you already have musicians who are arguing about equipment, right? And then on top of that, they're arguing about the religious views in regards to equipment as well. So, I mean, it's, I don't know. It can get a little dicey in there.
Recipe for destruction.
There was a thread on there last night. It was like, who conceals and carries while they play? I mean, dude, it happens. It's crazy. I think it's kind of.
I think I posted that.
yeah, exactly. That was you. Darn you.
I'm WTF on there.
Yeah.
That actually is my gear page.
Really?
Moniker. Yeah, WTF.
I didn't know you had a second moniker.
Well, no, I did because remember whenever Brian put out this ad for like who he was hiring, I sent in my resume. I said a little bit about myself. All he answered back is, "What's your gear page name?"
Oh, that's right. Well, that's been like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that was years ago. So
at that time, that mattered.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean that bad. I just mean that. Now, I mean, at that time, the Gear Talks, all the Facebook groups, they weren't as big as they are now.
Right. No.
Oh,
and so what you have is like a lot of the gear pagers. They're kind of they may go away from the gear page and get on Gear Talk or one of the other gear forums on Facebook. So things are kind of spreading out rather than everything being centrally located at 3 forums.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I think having these specialized little forums, and what I found is the forums on Facebook, the Gear Talk forums, the smaller ones with like 100 members or something, they run so much smoother than these ones with 15,000, 20,000 members.
Yeah.
So I created all these like little regional groups like Gear Talk Georgia, Gear Talk. There's even like a Gear Talk Nashville. There's a Gear Talk Kentucky. I don't know if there's a Gear Talk Indiana, but we might have to.
There's like 4 of us in it.
Well, I mean, obviously I listen to Chase and Tone, and I'm like, dang, these guys are Gear Talk right here.
Well,
we're just nerds
for about 2 minutes.
I mean, but dude, we're all nerds,
right?
We're all nerds. We just get to play guitar,
Yeah. The thing that I love most probably about the forums is it gives me a chance to get outside of myself, and what I mean by that is I get so caught up in rock tones and blues tones, and then in praise and worship tones, and then you forget that there's still this whole other genre of like 10 different kinds of metal music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's
a whole other side of the gear world that most of that I don't get into. I mean, I think your like Wampler pedals have done a pretty good job of reaching into that world a little bit, like say with like the triple rec and things like that.
Yeah, which Brian can't leave well enough alone, so he's going to redo.
I like breadboarding. I'm sorry. I like assembling capacitors and resistors and unique.
Is that prototype you posted yesterday?
No, that was a whole different one. I've literally have like a prototype every week, just a new one. Just
perfect.
You got that Big Muff prototype yet?
I'm working on it. Yeah, just got circuit boards in. So,
alrighty.
Yeah, you're gonna love that one.
Did I get one?
Maybe. I don't know.
I told you on the last episode, garnish my wages. I want one.
I don't know. I'm hungry for some B's and G's, so we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah, the metal scene. I belong to a little subgroup on Facebook, and most of them are metalheads, and it's so funny because I'm the outcast. And the big thing to make fun of me for is I play a red guitar because I guess that's not very metal.
Really?
You know what I mean? So like, but it's just it's funny because it's so foreign to me, and they'll tell me like, but the biggest pedal that they love is that it's called the Dead Horse Overdrive. You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of that one.
Is it ProTone pedals or something like that?
I think so.
Oh, ProTone. Okay, I know ProTone.
I think they make something called the Dead Horse, and it's like a pretty expensive pedal, and to me, it sounds like a mid-range boost type of pedal. You know what I'm talking about?
And
So,
it makes sense that they would like that then.
Yeah.
To me. Because you play your rhythm with real scooped, and then you hit a lead.
Yeah, and it tightens it up. And the thing
Yeah.
is, too, is like I told him, and it's a very expensive pedal, and I'm probably going to catch slack. And I'm sorry to the guys from ProTone, but like, I said, if you guys are just looking for I said, I'm sure this pedal does it way better. But if you're looking for a specific pedal that's just going to boost your mid-range, and you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, check out the Bad Monkey. And they all laugh at me.
The Dead Horse is not that expensive. I'm looking at it online right now. It's it's $220.
Okay, so that's not bad.
Compared to...
I was thinking like 400 or 500.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I thought, maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Is it ProTone? Is it ProTone Dead Horse? Is that right?
Yeah, it's protonepedals.com, and I see the Dead Horse $219.
Okay. All right. Well, it's not super bad then, but
I know Amp Tweaker's doing a lot in the metal world too.
Yeah, and they haven't, and even Bogner.
Yeah, Bogner's doing good.
Amp Tweaker's cool, man. He lives in Ackworth, just north of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
James Brown, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's bright. Oh my gosh, he used to design stuff for Peavey, I think.
Yeah, I think he did the Classic 30.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's legit, man. He knows his stuff. He's not like me. He's not a hack.
I'll say this again. I've said it 1,000 times, and they may have, so maybe I'm wrong. But Peavey should just reissue that Classic 30 if they haven't.
I don't know.
I don't know if I want to talk to just. I don't know what I should say on here, but I don't know if I'm going to buy anything Peavey after watching Undercover Boss.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah, I'm not touching that one. The 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
I've been sued enough. No thanks.
Yeah. Well, I can say it. No, I can't. But
You can if you quit real quick.
yeah. Right. Can I get hired right after the show? But,
Hashtag lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, it's just me saying, after watching Undercover Boss, I was like, I'd rather. This is why people want to go, and it goes back to what you're saying, is like buy, boutique amps, and the boutique amp market is having a resurgence. I think the boutique amp market has a resurgence after that episode of Undercover Boss came out.
That was pretty brutal. There you go. And I'm looking at Brian, and he's biting his tongue. So,
I've learned my lessons financially.
Yeah. But I don't know. The Peavey Classic 30 was a cool amp. Maybe, what'd you say? Did you say his name's James Brown?
That's his name.
That's
James
fantastic.
He also used to be a singer. I'm in a totally different way.
That's a different James Brown.
Yeah, he was a foot shorter, and
it's funny.
He used to be able to dance. Yeah.
You racist against dead people? Is that what you're saying?
That wouldn't be racist. That'd be prejudice.
Sure.
Right. I'm just saying dead people are lazy.
So I kind of wanted to ask you, it being, talking about social media, which I don't know if YouTube's really considered social media as much, but I mean that YouTube seems to be, at least right now, where people or pedals and products are able to be marketed really well. I mean, you guys have a ton of demos out. I was actually fortunate to just demo the Plexi Deluxe.
Yeah, I saw it, man. It was a good demo.
Yeah, thank you. And
I like the blues for Brian because he hates blues.
I didn't know that, but I had to come up with these hokey little names, and I was like, whatever.
It's great. I thought it was
an homage to Brian over here who hates blues. I'll remember to do it next time.
I really don't. It's not that I hate blues. It's that every time I play it, it sounds like a country player playing blues. It's like, no, you can't bend things like a steel player.
You can. You just can't do it every lick.
Right.
The badicka doesn't work in the blues.
Yeah. I mean, and how I came to know of really, well, back at the indie guitarist days, I went in. This is how much of a gearhead I've always been. This was a long time ago. I just typed in Brent Mason rig or something like that. I wanted to see his pedal board, because of course if I got his pedals, I'd be able to play like him.
Of course,
that's what,
or at least sound like him.
Yeah. I mean, it made perfect sense that if I just got his exact rig, then I would be Brent Mason and I'd be the #1 studio guitar player in Nashville. But no, and I saw this guy. I was like, why does this guy get to hang out with Brent all the time? And of course it was you, Brian. I was like, I didn't at the time. I didn't know you even made pedals, and then I saw the Hot Wired came out. And I was like, oh, that's neat. I want to check that pedal out if Brent uses it.
And that, kids, is why you should stalk people.
Yeah. Oh man, gear stalk. That's what it should be called.
Gear stalk.
Gear stalk.
Hashtag gear stalk.
So we got two. So we have 2 more names that we should name them podcasts. We could name it Gear Cult,
Gear Stalk.
Gear Stalker.
Dude, can I tell a story about the time I had to smack Brent Mason?
Yeah, please.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to think. Sure, Brent. No offense.
Okay,
but it was funny.
No, it was so funny because we were at a restaurant in Nashville, and the waiter everybody plays guitar,
right?
Yeah.
So
I can't walk down the street out there,
right? But so we're out to dinner. It's Brian and Brent, and anyway, it was his birthday.
Yeah, that's
it
right.
was his birthday dinner, and we had
the wives with us too. I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yep.
And we're at dinner, and this guy comes up, and I forget how he didn't know who Brent was, but somehow we got on the conversation of he was like, "Are you guys here for NAMM or whatever?" And we were like, "Yeah, we're in the gear industry or whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, man, this kid." He's like, "I just bought a guitar, or I just sold a guitar." And Brent was like, "Oh yeah, what'd you sell?" And he was like, "I don't even know, man. It was this metal guitar. It was all metal." And it was my great grandpa's, and it was like from the 40s or 30s or something.
Yeah.
And then he sold it for like a couple $100,
yeah, and
right?
Brent's eyes immediately got big. And he's like, "You already sold it?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man," he said, "I did all right. I got like $300 out of it." And then Brent opened his mouth to go, "Man, you got." And then I thought he was going to say ripped off. So I just smacked Brent, and then he stopped and looked at me like, "Why'd you do that?" And I just put my fingers to my lips like, shh. And then after the kid left, he was like, "Yeah, man, I probably shouldn't have told him he got ripped off." So that's my story where I had to like smack Brent Mason in the arm. Because like this kid, he thought he made out like a bandit, He was like, "I just got a free $300,
Right. This is why you don't pawn things.
Yeah, I'm like, just let him think he did okay on this.
Yeah, the deal's done at that point,
Yeah, no sense in ruining the kid.
Yeah, see, later the kid found the guy and murdered him. He's like, "I want my guitar back." This guy at Waffle House told me it was really good. It's worth way more. It's a steel. We can melt it.
Oh man, cracked me up. This old metal guitar from my great grandpa's had to be from the 30s or 40s. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned YouTube, and I can remember it's been a couple years. Mm-hmm. We're riding Brian's truck, and I said the pedal demo's got to change.
Yeah,
and I said eventually YouTube is. I said there's got to be a better way to utilize it, and then we decided basically it's content. You know. So yeah, I'll never forget. That was like a turning point for me, and then I noticed that that's exactly when it started to change. So it was like,
well, speaking of pedal demos, because that's mostly what I do now during the day. You guys typically have demos by everybody who's doing them. Really, that's known. Like Kingman and Thorne and everybody like that. Which I love. I love Brent. Kingman and Pete Thorne, they do excellent jobs. I kind of ended up wanting to do something a little bit different than them, where I don't talk in the demos. I'm not even shown in the demos, because the one thing that bothered me was people just talking and giving their opinion too much, and I'm not saying Brent or Thorne do this too much. They actually do a really good job of talking through the stuff. But we've all watched pedal demos where the guy talks for 35 minutes and then he plays for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's some guys that's just their niche, Their audience wants to hear 20 minutes of them talking about something more, and some are the exact opposite.
I believe that, and there's some guys I think Jess Nick has a huge following, and he does really, really long demos, and I've never watched a whole one, I don't think, but I think he does have probably a great following because of what he does. I think there's a niche for everybody. But I mean, pedal demos. What do you guys really like to see?
What do we like to see, or what do we like to do?
Well, I mean, I've watched a lot of yours, your personal ones that you do, Brian.
Yeah, the old ones were terrible.
I think what we like to see is a broad spectrum. That's why we like to have, Brett Kingman do his thing. We like to have, obviously, the problem with Pete Thorne is everything he plays I want to buy. I'm not joking.
Yeah, no.
He makes everything sound just unbelievable. But then again, we also like to see the guys that just, like what you're saying, just get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to hear the pedal, not what you think of the pedal.
I mean, me personally, I just think it depends. Like, the way I look at it is each reviewer has their own niche.
Sure.
So, like, for example, let's say Brett Kingman did a 45-minute video on how op amps work. That's probably not what I'm going to expect out of him.
Right.
I'm going to expect more tasteful playing and just, showing some different settings and kind of getting to the point a little bit quicker, which he's really good at. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
And kind of like I was saying, kind of the opposite. There's other guys that do really good at taking 25 minutes to discuss a pedal, and their audience loves it. So I just kind of look at it as I'm not going to tell a reviewer what we want to see, how we want it to look. Just do your thing. You know your audience better than we do. So
that's the best way to go about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, just kind of to wrap things up, the social media, I think everybody that is really into gear
should be on MySpace.
should be, right. Should really be on the Instagrams, the Insta pages, know?
Yeah.
And, the reason I wanted to have you on the show, man, is because your site is kind of leading the way. You know what I mean? Gear Talk has become its own entity that, like you said, even has like subgroups and it's branched out.
Right.
So if you guys listening aren't hip to Gear Talk, man,
check it out.
You're
for
behind
sure.
the 8 ball a little
Yeah.
bit. So
For $3, you can get a membership, a year membership.
click that PayPal donate button. That's what you need. That's what you need.
Yeah, why hasn't Instagram put that as a link yet? Why can't we,
right.
like I'm just going to keep it like a locked profile, like you can't look at it unless you pay $3.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Hey, it wouldn't shock me if those days came one day, but then Instagram would be completely lame, and then there'd be some sort of other.
Yep.
Then we'd all be on
avenue.
Snapchat.
Yeah.
Well, you guys aren't on Snapchat already?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
I was going to add you.
Usually naked selfies, though.
Oh, and in that note, so thank you guys very much. But no, check out all Lance's outlets, especially the Gear Talk on Facebook, all the groups, and check out his Instagram, Gear Talk. But man, Lance, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we had all kinds of technical difficulties, so thanks for being patient with us there too. We got to you about an hour late. So
no, it's all good. It's my pleasure, and Travis, Brian, and Max, I really appreciate your time and having me on.
Sure, man.
Yeah, man, and if you ever want us on the Gear Talk podcast, we'd love to do that too.
Oh no, that's been the whole plan the whole time, is to get you guys over. I need to get my ratings up over there. So
Just don't plan on getting to any sort of point quickly.
Yeah, just have Max on. He's the funny one.
Hashtag funny.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Leave us a review on iTunes. Check us out on Facebook, Chasing Tone Podcast, and Instagram, Chasing Tone Podcast.
Yeah.
For Lance, Max, and Brian, I'm Travis. Thank you guys so much for listening.